I tricked my cheating wife by making her think I was cheating on her, then vanished like a thermonuclear ninja ghost and handed her the divorce papers on Christmas. I hope you have some time, because this is going to be a very long story. The events I'm about to describe span a period from late 2019, and as required by the rules, all names have been changed. So here's the backstory. My wife had been the love of my life since high school. We started dating in 1992 when we were both 17. We're both 45 now, and we've been together ever since. She's the only woman I've ever been in a relationship with. We got married 5 years later, when we were 22, right after graduating college. A year later, our first of 2 sons was born. I gave her 23 years of my life. I built us a house, worked like hell to give her the life she dreamed of. Of course, we had hard times, but what couple doesn't? Even in the toughest moments, we always found a way to deal with our problems and came out stronger. That's why the news of her affair was such a shock to me. In March 2020, I first felt that something wasn't right in our relationship. For about 2 months before that, we had been stuck in some kind of limbo. I was recovering from knee surgery. I tore my ACL in the fall of 2019 and still couldn't move properly. At that point, I had only about 55% mobility in my knee. This seriously affected a lot of things around the house. I was on injury benefits because I got hurt at work and couldn't perform my usual household duties. My sons helped where they could, but some things that only I could do had to be postponed or shifted onto my wife, which she wasn't happy about. Our intimate life had also almost completely stopped. She hadn't been very interested even before my injury, and now it had completely stopped. Around that time, let's call her Sue, she started spending more time with coworkers after work. From November 2019 to March 2020, this became normal for her. Naturally, I didn't think much of it. In 23 years of our relationship, I had never had a single reason to doubt her or not trust her. She had her friends, I had mine, plus our shared circle of friends. I also often met up with my friends, and it was never a problem. Sometime around January 2020, I noticed something strange. Sue started noticeably distancing herself from me. Yes, we were having difficulties, but she had never before refused me affection. The usual hugs and kisses she used to give me stopped. Her phone was always in her hands. Long before I had any suspicions, she used to constantly show me interesting things from the internet, DIY ideas and recipes from Pinterest, memes, whatever. But now she had become much more secretive with her phone. The way she communicated with me became harsher, like I was irritating her. So now it's March 2020. The pandemic starts and New York goes into lockdown. Our professions were classified as essential, so we didn't have to work from home. I had just gotten clearance to return to work after 5 months of recovery, and I couldn't wait to get back. Because those months on sick leave, spent rehabbing my knee and unable to do any physical activity, were driving me insane. I love physical activity. I'm into martial arts and usually go to the gym 4 times a week, not counting all the physical work I did around the house. A week or 2 after the lockdown began, my wife told me she'd have to stay late at work. Again, I didn't think much of it. Because of the nature of her job, I assumed it would happen every other day. But no, she was staying late every single day. And not just for an hour or 2. She would come home 3 or more hours late, go straight to the shower, spend a little time with me, a little time with our 17-year-old son. Our older son, who is 22, lives with his girlfriend in another area. Then she'd go to bed. As my knee got better, we started being intimate again. But as you've probably already guessed, she wasn't emotionally or mentally involved at all, which I noticed pretty quickly. By early April, things started to become clear to me. All the signs pointed to her having an affair. That's when I decided I needed answers. I started digging online for information about what to look out for. I found lists of signs of a partner cheating, and of course, she matched almost all of them. After that, I expanded my search and started looking for ways to find proof. I started with her social media. Looking through her Facebook posts from the previous months, everything looked normal. Photos of us with our sons, photos with her friends, and several photos from her evening outings with coworkers. In those photos, there were both her close friends from work and several people I had never met before. But I noticed one recurring thing. In many of the photos, there was one guy. In every photo where he appeared, he was standing way too close to my wife. His hand was on her shoulder or on her lower back, far too close for someone I had never personally met. To put it mildly, I didn't like that at all. But that wasn't even the worst part. It turned out that this guy was her friend on Facebook and was following her there. Instagram. I decided to check his Facebook page, and what do you think I found? He had blocked me. Why the hell would a stranger block me from viewing his page while being friends with my wife on Facebook? Yeah, that's when I really started playing detective like Batman. By that point, I wasn't trying to stay in denial anymore. I knew she was cheating on me with this guy. My task was to find out how long it had been going on, and throughout all of April and May, that's exactly what I did. I had no idea how much information I'd be able to dig up once I really started. We had a family mobile plan, and I was able to access a lot of data. My future ex-wife's call history was very telling. The two most frequently contacted numbers from October 2019 to April 2020 were my number and one I had never seen before. Guess whose number that was? A quick Google search confirmed it was the same guy from the photos, the one who blocked me on Facebook. Let's call him a jerk, because that's exactly what he is. Now the picture became even clearer, but many of their messages were missing, which meant she had been deleting them. I knew she was cheating on me with this guy, but I didn't have direct proof. I needed more evidence. At that point, I told my best friend Ozzy what I'd found. He asked if I had confronted her with the facts, and I said no, because I felt it wasn't enough. Then he told me about an app I could install to spy on her communications in real time. I installed it, synced it with our plan, and started waiting. After a few days, I finally saw the proof. Messages between them about how much fun they'd had the night before, and how they were planning to do it again over the weekend. Boom. A punch to the gut. Saying I was stunned doesn't even come close. I think that moment can be considered the turning point. For the next 2 days, I was completely broken. I deliberately distanced myself from her during those 2 days, which my wife clearly noticed. She tried to comfort me and asked what was wrong, but I brushed her off and avoided her. I couldn't even look at her. The woman I had given 23 years of my life to. The woman I gave everything I could and more. And she cheated on me with a guy who was only 5 years older than our oldest son. On the 3rd day, I wasn't sad anymore. I was angry. I contacted Ozzy to tell him my suspicions had been confirmed, and he asked if I'd talk to my wife about it. I said no, and I told him I wanted revenge. I didn't just want to divorce her, I wanted to punish her. I wanted to leave her life in ruins, completely destroyed. That would take time, so I started developing a plan. While Googling infidelity, I came across a quote that stuck in my head. The enemy of cheating is unpredictability, or something like that. That became the foundation of my plan. I was going to turn her life into hell while secretly planning my exit strategy from the relationship. By early June, I still had the app installed. Almost every night, I gathered as much data as possible, watching their conversations. They acted like they were in a full-blown affair. Sexting, romantic messages, nudes, the whole package. At that point, I stopped actually reading it. I just copied everything and archived it on my private server. Meanwhile, I started doing unusual things. I began leaving the house at strange times. I started coming home even later than she did. In her presence, I was on my phone much more often. And when she asked what I was doing, I'd just say stuff and put the phone away. I also changed the logins to all my accounts so she couldn't access my data. Keep in mind, throughout all the years of our marriage, we never hid anything from each other. But around the start of her affair, she changed her Facebook and phone passwords, claiming she had to do it because of recent security issues. Yeah, great cover for hiding an affair from your husband. In any case, I let Ozzy in on my plan and also told my older and only sister and my 2 closest friends. These are people I would trust with my life, and I made them swear to keep this secret. For context, Ozzy and I have been friends since childhood. Our other friends, Joey and Nina, have known us since school. Remember Nina? She'll play a role later. By July, my wife had completely fallen into paranoia. She started texting and calling me much more often, asking when I'd be home and what I was doing. I noticed that the seed of doubt I had planted in her head a month earlier was starting to grow. This was especially obvious in her communication with her lover. She told him about her doubts and confusion, saying I was becoming cold and distant. The nerve. In their conversations, she suggested they stop meeting at our house because she had no idea when I might suddenly come home, which confirmed it. Yes, she had been bringing that jerk into our home. Thanks, Sue. In one of the chats, that scumbag asked her if it bothered her that I might be cheating on her, which of course made her angry. I can't even describe how much joy and laughter that exchange gave me. My wife, who was cheating on me, arguing with her lover about whether it would upset her if her husband might be cheating on her. The irony. By the way, I wasn't cheating on her. When I left the house, I was usually hanging out at Ozzy's or Joey's place. We drank, watched fights, or I was at my sister's place with her husband, who's like an older brother to me. My sister is 52, her husband is 58. She told him about my wife's affair, but didn't mention my plan. I couldn't risk it because he likes to talk. Fast forward to October. That's when things took a serious turn. I had been in my fake affair for 3 months now, and Sue knew I was actively distancing myself from her. From the day I started my plan until the day of her confrontation on October 20th, 2020, I didn't touch her once. No hugs, no kisses, no intimacy, nothing. But she didn't really need it because she was still sleeping with that scumbag, just now at his place or in motels. So that day, she calls me at work and asks me to come home right after my shift, saying she needs to have an important conversation. I won't lie, part of me believed she was about to confess to cheating, but of course that didn't happen. Instead, I come home and she asks me if I'm unhappy with her. The audacity. She points out that I spend too much time away from home, show her no affection anymore, and that our sex life has completely disappeared. She says she's worried that I'm pushing her away because of how she treated me while I was recovering from my knee injury. And then she added the funniest part. She actually asked me if I was cheating on her. Guys, I collapsed onto the floor and started laughing hysterically. And when I say hysterically, I mean full-on Joker laughter. To her, it probably looked like I was laughing at the very idea of infidelity. But in reality, I was laughing at the sheer irony of what was happening right in front of me. I rolled around on the floor crying with laughter for about 5 minutes before I could calm down enough to respond. I got up, looked her in the eyes for the first time in months, shook my head without saying a word, stood up, brushed myself off, kissed the top of her head, and went back to what I was doing. My own business later. That night, while sitting in my home office, I decided why not check what she was writing to that scumbag. I opened the app, and of course, they were texting. She tells her lover, "I know he's cheating on me. I asked him today, and he just laughed in my face. He fell on the floor and rolled around laughing for 5 minutes. Obviously, it wasn't actually 5 minutes. He doesn't care about my feelings anymore. I don't know why, but he's pulling away from me. I know I've lost him. This is karma." The smile that appeared on my face at that moment probably looked like the Cheshire Cat's grin. She was breaking down. That asshole tried to comfort her, saying that if I really loved her, she wouldn't have had to turn to him to get what I wasn't giving her. But the tone of her replies made it clear she was already doubting herself. She had the nerve to cheat on me because I couldn't fulfill my duties as a husband due to a real injury, and she carried on the affair for almost a whole year. The mere thought that she might lose me because of another woman made her panic. What a weakling. At the same time, I was fully engaged in the second part of my plan, revenge, getting my financial affairs in order. In September, I met with a family law attorney to start the divorce process, armed with the mountain of evidence I'd collected by then. In New York, divorces fall into 2 categories, at fault and no fault. The overwhelming amount of proof of Sue's infidelity practically guaranteed I could pin her to the wall in court. My lawyer advised me to get all my finances sorted ahead of the asset division, but I went further and secretly withdrew all the money from our joint account and transferred it to my personal one. I also started looking for an apartment as part of phase 2 of the plan. By November, I didn't change my behavior. If anything, I intensified it. This is where my friend Nina comes into play. For context, Nina and Sue were never particularly close. I met Nina in my first year of school, 2 years before meeting Sue. Even back then, Sue saw Nina as a threat because Nina was my closest female friend. There was always this unspoken sense that Sue didn't trust her. She never said it outright, but it was obvious to anyone who knew us. Nina, on the other hand, was never a big fan of Sue. Early in my relationship with Sue, Nina pointed out that Sue was basically forcing herself into our friend group, while I never did the same with hers. That annoyed Nina because she knew why Sue was doing it. Because of her. To this day, among Sue's friends, there isn't a single man, except that scumbag, while Nina is still the only woman in my circle of friends. Nina was stuck abroad for a while because of the pandemic and finally returned to New York on November 3rd. Ozzy, Joey, and I decided to celebrate her return with a dinner and drinks at Joey's place. There were only 5 of us. Ozzy, Joey, his wife, who is also Nina's sister, Nina, and me. Being the crafty fox she is, Nina came up with a devilish plan to drive Sue insane. She suggested taking a few photos in the same style as the ones I'd found months earlier of Sue with that scumbag and posting them on my Facebook page. That's exactly what we did. On November 5th, Sue found out. I'm guessing some of our mutual friends saw my posts and noticed how uncomfortably close I was to Nina. It completely threw her off because Sue was still convinced I was cheating on her. I'm almost certain she wanted to blame Nina, but she knew Nina had spent most of the year in Europe. That didn't stop her from trying to confront me that evening for what she called me being too handsy in those photos. I saw this as the perfect opportunity to land the first blow. I said, "What about those photos of you and that guy last year? He was pretty handsy too, but I didn't lose my mind over it." She was stunned. That was the first time I'd ever mentioned that guy's name. You could almost hear the gears in her head turning as she tried to come up with an excuse for those photos. Until that moment, she didn't even know I'd seen them. I use Facebook so rarely that when I actually post something, it's basically an event, which explains why the photos with Nina caused such a stir in our circles. And here's what she came up with. "Yeah, he's like that with everyone. He's just a friendly guy. I understand how it looks, but there's nothing between us. I'm sorry if those photos upset you. I'll delete them." No, it's not about the photos. It's about the fact that you've been sleeping with that guy for a whole year while lying to me, saying you were working late and meeting friends. That's what upset me. From that night on, she became unbelievably affectionate and clingy, borderline annoying, trying to show me affection and initiate intimacy. I ignored her at every opportunity. I continued archiving everything she wrote to that scumbag. By this point, I had long since gone numb. Any desire I might have had to save our marriage died the day I launched phase 1 of my plan. She wrote to her lover that things were only getting worse, that she didn't know what to do, and felt like I just hated her. I really did hate her. And then came the turning point. She told him she couldn't see him anymore. She was overwhelmed with guilt and felt like karma was choking her. She couldn't risk losing me. She said she loved that scumbag deeply, but was still in love with me and had to save her marriage. No, sweetheart, you were about 8 months too late. That asshole lost his mind, telling her all kinds of sweet nonsense like, "He doesn't love you the way I do, and you're making a mistake. You can't just throw away what we have." Throughout November and December, Sue was stuck in limbo, trying to figure out what was going on in my head, still unable to tell whether I was actually cheating on her. Meanwhile, that scumbag kept bombarding her with messages every day, but she didn't respond. I often noticed her checking her phone and then quickly putting it away. At the same time, phase 2 of my plan was complete. The divorce papers were ready. I found myself a small studio apartment in the Bronx and signed a 2-year lease. All my money was in my personal account. I was ready to deliver the final blow. Then came Thanksgiving. My older son and his girlfriend decided to host a small dinner for our closest relatives. Present were them, the girlfriend's parents, she's an only child, Sue, our younger son, and me. We had a great evening. My older son's girlfriend is studying to be a chef, and she cooked everything herself. That girl can cook like hell. Since I needed to maintain the appearance that things between Sue and me were fine, I showed her some affection that evening, kissing her on the cheek, a sweet hug, putting my arms around her shoulders from behind. She was thrilled by those gestures. Keep in mind, this was the first time I had touched her since the night in October when she confronted me and I kissed the top of her head. Almost 2 months had passed since then. I won't lie, it disgusted me to do it, but it was necessary. I couldn't risk the plan. My distancing from her in front of our sons, my older son's girlfriend, and her parents would have raised questions. Our younger son decided to stay over at his brother's place, and Sue and I went home. On the way home, she thanked me for treating her so well and said, "I don't know what's going on with you, sweetheart, but I'm here." I had to hold myself back from laughing again. I just replied, "I know. I just need time." So for the first time since spring, that night we had sex. I thought, screw it. Why not get one last bit of pleasure before I erased her from my life? I won't go into details, but it wasn't lovemaking. When I finished, she lay on the bed trying to figure out what kind of truck had just run her over. There were no cuddles or anything afterward. I just got up, took a shower, and went to sleep in the office. She was confused by the fact that I used a condom for the first time in 20 damn years. That clearly puzzled her, but she didn't ask any questions. I obviously wasn't about to have unprotected sex with her, knowing she'd been doing it with that scumbag for months. The next morning, I woke up, and the first thing I did was check my spy app. For the first time in weeks, she replied to that scumbag. The guy went all out, confessed his love, told her she was wrong to try to reignite a flame that had died in me, said she'd been in a cage with me for 23 years and deserved the love and care of a man who would truly appreciate her. And remember, this guy is only 5 years older than our son. He fell so hard for a 45-year-old woman that she decided to destroy our marriage and the home we built because of him. She replied almost the same way she had the last time they talked. She said she loved him and enjoyed their relationship, but she couldn't lose me. I was still the love of her life, but there would always be a place for him in her heart. She suggested staying friends if he wanted, but their physical relationship was over. He begged her to meet him one more time, and as you've probably guessed, she agreed. One last time. Yeah, who am I to judge her? I'd done the same thing the night before. Of course, I added all of this to the archive I'd been collecting. On December 4th, the third and final phase of my plan began. The divorce papers were in my hands. My first stop, my new place, was ready. Now I had to start gradually moving my things out of the house, but first, I had to tell my sons. On Friday evening, I called my oldest son home, invited both of them into my office, and told them everything. I didn't go into details, but I told them that their mother had been cheating on me for over a year and that I would be filing for divorce soon. My younger son was especially shaken by this because he had recently gone through betrayal himself. His first girlfriend cheated on him just 4 months earlier. Watching his heart break a second time, now because his own mother was capable of this, was hard. My older son took it much more calmly and suggested taking his brother to live with him until things settled down. I agreed. We packed a few things for my younger son, and he asked me if I'd be okay. I told him, "Yes, son, I'll be okay. And you will be too. We'll be okay, I promise." And then they left. The hardest part was over. It was time to bring out the nuclear arsenal. I was at work and left him a spare key. I only took things whose disappearance Sue wouldn't notice right away. I also bought myself a new phone and a new number and gave my new contact info to everyone who needed it. Ozzy, Joey, Nina, my sons, my sister, and my mom. Meanwhile, I continued keeping Sue in the dark, giving her no hints at all. She was still in contact with the scumbag, not as intensely as before, but there was still an emotional connection between them. Throughout all this time, I kept collecting information. Every single detail. Call recordings, messages, photos, emails, everything I'd saved since the start of my plan. And I began printing it all out. I probably spent over $1,500 on office supplies, printer cartridges, paper, folders, everything I needed. I organized everything chronologically, from the beginning of their affair to their last contact on December 16th. It all fit into 14 folders. Then I put the folders into boxes, wrapped them like gifts, and addressed them to different people. My mother. My father passed away 7 years ago. Her parents, her 2 sisters, her brother, her HR department. I should mention that the scumbag works at the same company as she does, and there are strict rules there against relationships between coworkers because of the nature of the job. I also sent packages to several of her friends, the scumbag's friends, and the scumbag's parents. I took everything to the post office and sent it on December 16th. Estimated delivery, December 22nd, 24. Perfect. And then Christmas Eve arrived. Sue came home at her usual time. I have no idea whether she saw the scumbag or not. I stopped tracking her through the app on the 18th. I figured I'd gathered all the information I needed. As usual, she took a shower, spent a little time with me. I fooled around with her on the living room couch. Yeah, I know, I'm an asshole here too. And then she went to bed. The final phase was finally approaching. The nuclear bomb I'd started preparing back in June was finally about to detonate. In the middle of the night, I woke up, wrapped one of the 3 remaining folders as a present, attached the divorce papers to the inside of the cover, and placed it on my side of the bed with a note that said, "Merry Christmas." Next to it, I left my old phone and my lawyer's business card. I packed the remaining essentials into 2 backpacks and left the house I had lived in for 23 years. All of this happened a week ago. For Sue, I completely vanished. Off the radar. I blocked her on Facebook, but for some reason she still hasn't blocked me, so I can watch the aftermath. It's absolutely glorious. All my packages reach their recipients, and Sue is getting hit hard from all sides. Her younger sister tore into her brutally. Her parents were not happy at all. My mom absolutely destroyed her. I knew my mother could be vicious, but what she said to Sue was downright obscene. Sue is desperately trying to find out where I am, but those who know aren't telling her a word. Her entire Facebook is filled with attempts to reach me because I assume she understands that I'm probably watching. But I won't say a single word to her without my lawyer present. That will be the only time I ever breathe the same air as her again. She has no way to twist this situation to make me the bad guy. And according to a mutual friend who works at the same company as her, starting tomorrow, Sue and the scumbag are being placed on unpaid leave. So it looks like she'll be starting 2021 without a job. As for the remaining 2 folders, one I gave to my lawyer as final evidence for the upcoming divorce. The other I kept for myself to burn it in a bonfire at Joey's place once the divorce is finalized. Do I feel guilty about this? Not even a little. For 23 years, I was faithful to this woman. I gave her the house she dreamed of. I gave her the family she wanted. I gave her the life that I thought we both deserved. I loved her unconditionally. I never let her down. I never cheated. I never even thought about breaking my vows. Whenever a problem arose that I believed was affecting our marriage, I went to her, talked about it, and we worked through it as best we could. She chose comfort in another man's bed instead of coming to me and saying she was unhappy with our sex life. At that moment, she chose a younger guy. So no, I feel absolutely no pity for her, nor for what I did. Let her burn in hell. I don't care. The only things I might lose are the house, the car, and maybe a few $100s a month in alimony. But given that the divorce is filed on the grounds of infidelity, and in New York at-fault divorce is possible in certain cases, she likely won't get alimony at all, thanks to the massive amount of evidence I provided. Update 1. Christmas was the first full day I spent in my new apartment. I'm still setting things up, there are items I want to buy, but overall, I've already made it my home, since I'll be living here for at least 2 years. My sons and my older son's girlfriend came over and spent most of the day at my place. My son's girlfriend brought homemade sweets and cooked a delicious dinner. I finally had a chance to sit down and talk calmly with my sons, something I hadn't done in a long time, and it felt good. My older sister also came by with treats and spent time with us. It was the first time in almost a year that she'd seen her nephews. Having all these people around helped me deal with my emotions because if I had been alone, I probably would have just drunk myself into oblivion. Everyone left around 8 p.m., and I decided to stop by Joey and his wife Claudia's place. I spent a couple of hours with them, had a few drinks, and then went back home. The next important event happened on December 29th, 2020, around midday. I got a message from Nina asking if I was free that evening. Of course I was. We agreed to meet after work. She came by, and we went to a diner near my office in New York. Restaurants were operating at 25% capacity because of the pandemic, but finding a table wasn't hard. Many people still preferred staying home. Once we sat down and ordered food, Nina laid all her cards on the table. Honestly, I knew this was coming. She admitted she'd liked me ever since we were teenagers, but she never had a chance to say anything because Sue took me before Nina could confess. For context, I've known Nina 2 years longer than Sue. As I mentioned before, she was the 4th member of our little square. Me, Ozzy, Joey, and her, back in school. We were outsiders who never really fit in. Back then, Nina struggled with her weight and had diabetes. She was a chubby goth girl, actually very cool, but no guy paid attention to her. Still, there was always chemistry between us. Now Nina is a personal trainer and yoga instructor. She was the ugly duckling who turned into a real, beautiful swan, so to speak. Long story short, we decided that after my divorce is finalized, we'll start dating and see where things go. And yes, I slept with her that night. We went back to my new apartment and had a great time. Do I feel shame about it? Hell no. Nina has been a better friend to me than Sue ever was for almost a quarter of a century. She always supported me. And that night, I learned that she had consciously stepped aside all those years to let me build a life with Sue. That really moved me. That level of self-sacrifice for another person. That's what real love looks like. Yeah, it might sound like I'm trying to justify sleeping with her, but for me, it was the right decision. And I plan to fully commit to a relationship with Nina and see where it leads. Now about yesterday, the day I met with my wife and her lawyer to discuss the divorce. It had been 2 weeks since I disappeared from Sue's life. On Monday, I got a call from a law office informing me that Sue's lawyer had scheduled a meeting to discuss the divorce terms on January 6th, 2021, yesterday morning. On Tuesday, I met with my lawyer to go over my demands. In short, I want a divorce on the grounds of Sue's infidelity. My terms, a full division of assets. I sell her my share of the house. She can keep it. We each keep our cars. I keep my cabin in Pennsylvania, and because of the infidelity, she receives no alimony from me. As for our younger son, he'll be able to choose who he lives with after the divorce, and most likely, it will be me. Then Wednesday came. I arrived at my lawyer's office dressed in full Johnny Cash style. She and her lawyer were already there. Sue looked awful, barely holding herself together. I kept a stone face. I won't bore you with the legal details, but her lawyer proposed reconciliation terms. I rejected them almost immediately after she finished reading them. In the end, we agreed on a legal separation that would lead to a no-fault divorce. The only change: I will pay her $653 a month as temporary support to cover utilities until she finds a job, but no longer than 1 year after the divorce is finalized. Yes, she was fired for her relationship with the scumbag, and so was he. I earn enough that this won't hurt me financially, even if she drags her feet finding a new job. She also has enough savings to live on for a while. After a year, she'll be on her own. It's a small price to pay to be rid of her and her cheating. The divorce process will take about 3 months, so if everything goes according to plan, I'll be free of her by early April. After the meeting, my lawyer gave me final instructions and said he'd contact me with updates on the filing process. Outside, Sue caught up with me and asked to talk. I decided to give her that chance. She held herself together during the meeting, but once we were outside, she completely broke down. She said how sorry she was, that she never wanted things to turn out this way. She said she never expected to fall in love with the scumbag. But when she thought I was cheating on her, she realized how wrong she was for betraying her husband. She asked if I could ever forgive her, and whether we could start over in a few years, because she couldn't imagine life without me. I told her she should start imagining it right now, because this was the last time I would ever speak to her or see her. I said that my younger son is already old enough to decide for himself how to live his life. I told her that I had given her half of my life and every drop of my love, and that by her own words she fell in love with another man, so she has absolutely no chance of forgiveness. All my love for her burned out during those months when she was confessing her love to that jerk instead of coming to me and saying that we had problems in our relationship. I said I loved the woman she used to be, but I hate the one standing in front of me now. We were standing on a sidewalk in the middle of Manhattan. She was making a scene, crying her eyes out. Passers-by were staring, but I didn't care. I wasn't going to publicly humiliate her. I had already destroyed her social and professional life enough, but I needed to say everything that had built up inside me. I put in my headphones, turned around, and just walked away. Later that night, her father called me and apologized. He praised me for always being a good husband to his daughter and said he was ashamed of her, that he raised her differently. I won't lie, I'll miss the old man. My own father died many years ago, so my father-in-law was always a father figure to me, but I see no point in maintaining a relationship with anyone from her family. After that call, I went on Facebook and symbolically changed my status to divorced. Yes, nothing was legally finalized yet, but for me, it was already over. As I've said, when I post something, it's an event, so a lot of people started messaging me privately, asking questions. I told everyone that I had filed for divorce from Sue. Of course, Nina immediately called me, surprised at how fast I'd taken this step. Obviously, I was already deep in the process when we talked, but she didn't realize how far it had gone. I asked her to come over, and of course, she agreed right away. We slept together again, but this time, she stayed the night. We lay in my bed and talked until morning, and I hadn't felt such a connection in a long time. Nina understands me, and I can't get enough of her presence. Since she confessed her feelings, she's all I think about. Yes, I know some people will say I'm moving on too fast, but as far as I'm concerned, my marriage ended the day Sue let another man touch her like that. I was ready for this a long time ago. This is the end. My divorce is in progress, and I'm starting a new relationship with Nina. I know that in one of the comments I said I'd probably never get married again, but that was before Nina confessed her feelings, and I can't deny that I feel the same way. We're going to take things slowly and won't announce our relationship until the divorce from Sue is fully finalized legally. As for Sue, I don't care what happens to her. She can do whatever she wants. I don't care. I'll get the money for my half of the house during 2021 in 4 quarterly payments, and I'll never have to see her again. To everyone who expressed support, encouragement, and praise, I'm endlessly grateful. Update 2. My wife almost died yesterday. Yesterday, my wife almost died. Here's what happened. Only my close friends, my sons, my older sister, and my mother have my new contact details, and I've completely blocked my wife on all platforms. She had no way to contact me after I disappeared from her life on Christmas Eve. However, some of our mutual friends can still reach me. Last night I was at my apartment when I got a message from one of those friends, one of the few who didn't turn their back on Sue after I exposed her affair. When I replied, he told me he had gone to check on Sue and found her unconscious in the bedroom, foam at her mouth, with 2 empty pill packages nearby. She's now in intensive care in critical but stable condition. Doctors say she'll most likely survive, but she won't be okay. That friend begged me to come see her. Her parents and 2 sisters were also at the hospital. I assume they were contacted after the hospital couldn't reach me, since my old number was still listed as Sue's emergency contact. I simply said no. Sue is no longer my problem. She clearly chose the easy way out instead of facing the shame and pain she deserved for destroying our 23-year marriage. I told my sons about what happened and made it clear that if they wanted to be there for their mother and support her, I wouldn't judge them. She is their mother after all. But as for me, I'm done, and I no longer care what happens to her. They were a bit surprised by my response, but they accepted my position. Now that news of what happened to Sue has spread, many of the friends who had turned away from her have started sympathizing with her, saying that I should be there for her, that despite what she did to me, I should support her in her darkest moment. I was also told that her lover tried to visit her this morning, but he wasn't allowed in because he's not family. People are now pressuring me to go see her, but I've felt nothing for this woman for a very long time. Those feelings died during the process itself, along with my forgiveness for her betrayal. I firmly stand by my position that I don't care what she's done anymore. In fact, this makes me hate her even more. She cheated on me. She decided that an almost year-long affair with a guy only 5 years older than her son was worth destroying a 23-year marriage. And now, when she's facing the consequences of her actions, she chooses the most selfish way possible to deal with it. Even now, when she'll probably survive, she'll once again receive instant sympathy from everyone who only recently condemned her betrayal, while I'll be painted as the bitter ex who refuses to pity her. Except for her father. He called me and said he respects my decision to stay away. I feel like I never truly knew this woman. Yes, I understand that the way I ended things with her may have caused a mental breakdown, but now I'm asking myself, did she do what she did because she genuinely lost control? Or did she make an extremely risky, calculated move to regain the sympathy of people who only weeks ago condemned her for cheating? She cheated on me, and now she's the victim. Sorry if this sounds like rambling, but I'm trying to process everything. I want to make this absolutely clear. I will not go to Sue. She lost the right to my care the day she chose another man. I understand many will judge me for this. I don't care. Think whatever you want. But if you were in my place, you'd see her actions very differently. Some of you may conclude that what she did is my fault, that torturing her for months by making her think I was cheating while she was actively cheating on me and then destroying her life became the catalyst for her breakdown. Maybe that's true. Maybe I really am a cold-hearted sociopath. But I gave this woman half my life and did everything I could to be the best husband possible. By her own words, I had nothing to do with her decision to cheat. She did it for herself. Her selfishness knows no bounds, and I'm glad I got rid of her. If that makes me a bad person because I won't visit her in the hospital and never want to see her again, so be it. I stand by my convictions. She chose betrayal. She chose her own needs over our marriage. Now it's my turn to choose myself. She can rot wherever she wants. I don't care. Let others help her cope. My obligation to care about her well-being ended the day we signed the separation agreement. I just needed to vent. If you're going to judge me for my feelings, keep your opinion to yourself. As I said above, after 23 years and 2 children, I never truly knew this woman. I have no sympathy for her, and I never will. Quick update. Her father informed me that she's been transferred from intensive care to a psychiatric unit. Doctors are still monitoring her mental state. She's conscious again and mentally stable, but clearly very weak. Her father said she asked whether I had come, and when he answered no, she went quiet. He respectfully said he would only share updates if I asked, because he understands what state I'm in. I also scheduled a counseling appointment for my 17-year-old son. The first session is this Monday. Update 3. The end and goodbye. On April 13th, exactly 1 month ago, Sue officially became my ex-wife. Initially, my lawyer said it would happen on the 18th, but partly because restrictions in New York started easing due to the pandemic, everything wrapped up a few days earlier. My lawyer, Jeff, called me on April 12th and asked me to come in the next day. When I arrived, he handed me the notice confirming the completion of the divorce process and shook my hand. I couldn't just leave, so I hugged him and thanked him for everything he'd done for me. On the way home, I replayed the last 24 years of my life in my head, all the memories, the entire story. When I walked into my apartment, it finally happened. I collapsed on the floor, and all the emotions I'd been holding in came flooding out. I hadn't cried like that in years, but these weren't tears of sadness. Not at all. My soul felt free after being locked in the deepest, darkest abyss. That evening, I called my older son and briefly told him that everything was finalized and that, from that day on, his mother and I were no longer married. He asked how I was feeling. I think he heard that I'd been crying, and I said I was okay. Then my 17-year-old son took the phone, and we talked for almost an hour and a half. My older son and his fiancée are taking great care of him, and like me, he continues seeing a therapist. I won't go into details, but he still has a lot of work ahead of him, especially when it comes to how he views relationships. Later that night, Nina came over. Of course, I told her the news. She simply wrapped her arms around my waist and held me tight until I cried again. When I calmed down, Nina said that no matter what happens, she would never betray me and would love me with all her heart. I know every word she said is true. Some people might judge me for this, but I don't regret the life I built with Sue, despite everything she did, because she gave me 2 wonderful sons. But now it's clear that I chose the wrong woman. In just a few months, Nina has given me so much and asked for nothing in return. All she wants is for me to be by her side. I won't talk about her for long, but she truly is my hero. After the divorce was finalized, other interesting things happened. For example, that guy contacted me. It turned out he saw this story when it became popular online and immediately recognized himself. The first thing he did was apologize. He told me what happened after his mother received the folder I'd sent her. Essentially, his family disowned him. His mother, a deeply religious Catholic who goes to church 3 times a week, went into a rage when she learned that her son had destroyed a marriage that lasted almost a quarter of a century. That same day, she kicked him out. Within a week, when his employer also received the folder, he was fired. Since then, he's been couch surfing at friends' places, trying to find a new job. I admit I could have completely destroyed this guy, but I didn't. I asked him when he last saw Sue, and he said he hadn't seen her in months. The last time they spoke, Sue told him to forget about her and move on. As far as I remember, she said the same thing the last time she and I talked, so at least there she didn't lie. I asked him a few more questions, and he was surprisingly open. I think he was looking for some kind of redemption for the chaos he brought upon himself. Much of what he said matched the information I'd gathered from the messages myself. I didn't say much, but I asked a lot of questions. The conversation lasted about 20 minutes. Then he apologized again, and I said this to him. Copy-pasted from our chat. You're a 27-year-old guy who now has to live with the fact that your own mother hates you for destroying a marriage that lasted almost as long as you've been breathing. I know you wrote to me because your conscience is eating at you, but I won't give you comfort. When I was 27, I was building my future. Now you're homeless, unemployed, and known as a homewrecker. If you're smart, you'll learn from this. If not, you'll stay a loser until you reach my age, if you even make it that far. I won't wish you luck. You don't need luck. You need to rebuild your life. After that, I ended the conversation and blocked him. The next major event happened on May 4th, 2021. Nina now carries my last name. Over the past 2 months, we talked a lot about where we want to go with our relationship. Nina made it clear she doesn't want to be with anyone but me and wants to take my last name. She wants to be my wife, and she wants me to adopt her daughter. Let's call her Anna, as my own. I adore this little girl. She recently turned 6 months old. Her birthday was last month, and she idolizes me. I'm the first father figure in her life, since her biological father left when she was 4. Nina consciously never introduced Anna to any man she dated after her divorce unless he had real potential for a long-term relationship. Without a doubt, I have that potential, and I have experience raising children. By the way, Anna and my younger son are like 2 peas in a pod. Their sibling-like bond is both amazing and touching. My younger son has grown very attached to Anna. I discussed this with my therapist, and he said it's definitely a good sign. So last Monday, we decided to go to the city registry office and make it official. It took 24 hours to get the marriage certificate. Telling everyone was funny. Ozzy said, well, who would have doubted it? And my older sister added, I'm taking bets on when the baby announcement post will appear. We thought we'd kept our relationship secret all these months, but it turns out everyone had already figured it out. Some will say we got married too quickly. And yes, I did say in the comments that I'd never get married again. But that was before Nina confessed her feelings. This woman lay in my arms, crying tears of happiness, saying she never thought she'd ever have a chance to be with me. She described in detail what she'd felt for me all these 25 years, and how even while married she regretted that Sue won. I honestly didn't realize how deeply all of this ran for her. She even said that at times she'd thought about having an affair with me, but she couldn't be the one to destroy a family. And despite everything, over all these years, she gave me so much and asked for so little in return. Even the woman I married and had 2 children with never showed me as much love as Nina did. I'd be a fool not to give her my last name. Now she has it. We're also in the early stages of the adoption paperwork for Anna. As for Sue, I haven't spoken to her since the last time I was in our house, almost 4 months ago. Mutual friends occasionally update me. One of them, a realtor, told me she sold the house and gave her a job at his firm as an administrative assistant, and by doing so, canceled the alimony I was required to pay due to her unemployment. She now lives in a small apartment near his office that he also helped her find. She's now just a shadow of the woman she once was. Lost weight, keeps to herself, comes into the office, does her job, and doesn't socialize with anyone except that friend. Probably because, as you know, her interactions with coworkers at her last job led to all of this. The last time I heard about her was at the end of March. I thanked her friend for taking care of her, but said I no longer needed updates about her life. She's no longer my problem. I'm almost certain she knows about Nina and me, since some of our remaining mutual friends have commented on it. Since my younger son will be an adult in a year, I have no reason to ever speak to her again. And I won't. That's it. My story is over. Thank you sincerely for the kind wishes. Be sure to write what you think about this whole story in the comments. Personally, I can generally understand the author and even agree with him. Yes, it's harsh, but putting myself in his shoes, his motives are completely clear to me. On the other hand, sending out all those folders to relatives and the workplace feels like overkill to me. It's a personal matter. Why air all that dirty laundry in public? Is that even legal? I tried Googling it, and it seems that in New York such actions may violate confidentiality laws when private messages are sent to an employer without the consent of the participants. Even if the chances of winning such a case are slim, it's still technically a violation. I also don't understand why he decided to adopt someone else's child. He could have just lived under the same roof. If he and Nina eventually split up, he'd be fully financially responsible for her daughter. It's a strange move. After all, it's not his biological child. Do you agree with me, or do you have a different opinion? Thanks for watching this video to the end. Watch our previous video right here and be sure to subscribe to the channel. We'll have many more long stories like this. Good luck.